Okay, so in expansionary monetary policy, the goal is to increase labor demand. So what's happening is the Fed is concerned that unemployment is too high. And so that would accurately represent their take on our current economy, right? So the Federal Reserve was very concerned, or continues to be very concerned, that the unemployment rate is going to be too high. In fact, we're probably in the 20% or possibly higher range, which is historically the fastest it's ever gone up that much, and is as high as it was really not since the Great Depression. So we're very concerned about unemployment being too high. And so the goal is to increase labor demand. And so how is that going to work? How does this function exactly? So what the Federal Reserve is going to do is it's going to decrease its target interest rate. So it wants the interest rate to decrease. And so in the federal funds market, here's its first target, and it's going to lower that target. And so it simply has to increase the supply of reserves to accomplish that. So it's going to buy bonds to decrease that interest rate. Now, the idea is to increase or shift the labor demand curve to the right. The way this works is basically the following. When the federal funds rate goes down, that's going to affect other longer-term interest rates. So the idea is that other longer-term interest rates in the economy decrease. So for example, interest rate on car loans. Mortgages, right? Buy a house. That's a longer term interest rate. So the goal of the Federal Reserve is to decrease these other longer term interest rates. And ultimately, when those go down, that's going to increase our consumption, right? So think about if the interest rate goes way down. So all of a sudden cars are 0% for 5 or 6 years. Well, people are going to tend to buy more cars. And the same is with other durable goods, right? Refrigerators, washing machines, home improvements, all of these types of things are going to be cheaper for consumers now. So we're going to tend to do more of that. We're hoping to increase consumption. And in the same respect, we're hoping to increase investment, right? So remember our credit market, we're basically trying to increase the amount of credit that's available. That's going to tend to increase investment by companies. We want them to buy more machines, equipment, build more buildings to take advantage of low interest rates. That's the cost of doing that type of borrowing. So if I can increase consumption, increase investment, that is going to increase labor demand. So the goal, go back to my earlier graph, is to shift that labor demand curve back to the right. And with monetary policy, the way that's functioning is via increased consumption and investment by the lower interest rate. So the Fed hopes to lower interest rates across the economy and stimulate some demand for consumption and investment. So when I think about the labor market then, if I just kind of draw this out, the quantity of labor here and the wage rate, we have labor supply. I'm going to draw us down here in, let's say, a recession. So here we are at L1, and the wage is stuck at W1. And so we have a lot of unemployment here, right? So these are all people that would be willing to work, their labor supply. They're willing to work at W1, but they can't because there's not enough demand. And so the goal of the Federal Reserve Bank is to ultimately try and shift that labor demand curve to the right. Decrease the interest rate, increase consumption and investment, and increase the demand for labor. And so the goal then is that we can increase employment. And by doing that, notice I've drastically decreased the amount of unemployment. Well, that unemployment too has gone way down from where it was. And by increasing the amount of labor, I have therefore increased my real GDP. And so that is the goal and the effects of expansionary monetary policy. So up next, we'll take a look at contractionary policy, when we use it, and how exactly it is going to operate.